So Joni and I decided this year that we were going to spend the summer up in Maine and explore the whole coastline up there. And as promised, we stayed along a lot of parks along the way, and we're going to show you the details of this entire trip. It was challenging at times, and we had a couple of issues come up, but we did make it.
Yay.
Details coming up on RV Street. Oh my God. Oh my God. We are finally in Maine. I can't believe it. Oh my God, yeah. This was still and continues to be quite a trip. And when we did this video, when we were planning it, and because we've been telling everybody we're going to do this compilation of this whole trip, and it ended up being like, whoa, this is way long.
Absolutely.
So we're going to divide this up into two parts, part one, part two. Guess what part this is? This is part one of our month, our 3-month travel, 2,400 miles from RGV to Maine.
After spending the winter in RGV, also known as Rio Grande Valley, we headed north on 281, and our first stop would be an overnight stay in a Thousand Trails campground in Columbus, Texas. It was just an overnight stop, just so we could rest. About 60 miles or so into this trip, we hit a border checkpoint. Yeah,
traffic backed up, and here we go. We're like, okay, what is this all about? And but check out the as we're going through the line, if you'll look there on the left, you'll see the 10 most wanted. We're like, okay, this makes me feel safe. What are they checking for? Escaped prisoners or something?
And it was kind of weird to us because it actually wasn't right on the border. It was kind of out there in Texas.
About 60 miles north of where we first started, right down there on Highway 2, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, so we just, we drove all the way from RGV to Columbus. We stayed there a night just to rest. But the next morning, we left Columbus and headed the last part to get to Conroe, Texas, the Thousand Trails Park there. That's our home park.
Yeah, we stayed there for about 2 weeks. We needed to wrap up some personal things, and, just because but Conroe is our home base. Yeah. So
we had to do some last minute maintenance, take care of some personal stuff before we headed this long trip up to the top of the country.
And we also wanted to stop and say hi to some friends.
Yeah. So on March 15th, we left Conroe and headed to Thousand Trails Lake Taiwanki.
I'm
we have
sure
a hard time, but I think it's Taiwanki.
It's something, and I'm sure we're not saying it right, but bear with us.
Yeah, it's just west or east of Dallas area. And on the way there, we found an empty parking lot, a store that had been abandoned. And so we decided just to pull over there, and we had lunch. And we actually do this quite often.
Yeah, even if it's a truck stop or just whatever, we just pull off and whip up some lunch and just relax for a little bit and then hit the road again.
Yep. And so once we were at Lake Taiwanki, we stayed there for 3 days. And got to remember, the time of year, spring is just beginning. And the weather was pretty nice, but it still was a bit nippy. It's a fair park.
Yeah.
It has its nice little niches, but we saw several sites that didn't have electrical working. It actually had a sign posted, electrical service not working.
Yeah, and we only had, and I believe that whole park is only a 30 amp park, and very poor cell signal for us.
Yeah, in our particular, we had a really nice site. Again, because we came early in the year, there was a lot of empty ones. And so we got a really nice spot. We had 30 amp full hookups, and we're really close to the lake.
Yeah.
So overall for us, it was perfect. I mean, you know, it was a place to stop for 3 days. It's all good. Before we go any further, I want to just bring up one note and explain to you all how we travel. Joni and I have come up with several habits and things that we absolutely try to adhere to while we're traveling. Joni, why don't you go through the list here and let them know what we do?
We never travel on Fridays or weekends. Mondays are usually our travel day.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say our move day.
Yeah, we call it our move day.
We always watch the weather.
A lot.
Yeah, every day. And we do this to see if we have any bad weather coming at us. And if we do see bad weather coming at us, we will change our reservations.
Yeah.
And just either wait it out or move early. Because it is horrible to travel in bad weather.
Yep. So if we see bad weather coming, either on move day or maybe, move day. If it rains before or stormy before, we don't care.
Yeah.
But if move day though is bad, we'll get on the internet, we'll get on the phone, we'll do whatever we do, and we change, and we'll either leave early and get out of there, or if time permits, we'll stay put and we'll leave after. So anyway, let's get back on track. So we leave Lake Taiwanki, and now we're heading northeast towards Arkansas. And we are landing in a place called Millwood Landing Golf and RV Resort. Boy, that was a mouthful.
Indeed.
Millwood Landing, it's an RPI park, and it's in Arkansas. It's about 15 minutes from Lake Millwood, which is a huge lake. And from what we gathered there, it's some of the biggest bass in the country there, small and large bass.
I thought it was a pretty nice place.
Yeah, it was. It was a pretty nice place.
Yeah.
Spring, though, again, is kicking in, and they have a lot of different trees there than we do in Texas. And the pollen was just...
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, it was just very crazy. It was just really starting to kick in. The park itself was fairly empty because we're so early. But we decided,
Oh, yeah. So we were, we kept hearing about all this wonderful fishing in the area, and, there's a big dam there. And so we decided to go to Walmart in town and get our fishing license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we did, and we went fishing, and we caught nothing.
Surprise.
But one thing again about Millwood was we were in that park. We had no cell service either.
None.
And when and we have a Wii Boost, and even with the Wii Boost, we did not have any cell, which means we didn't have any hotspot, which means we didn't have any internet. So this was our first experience of not having any of that for 2 weeks, and which was fine. They did have cable, so we were able to entertain ourselves with TV. We played
somewhat.
cards a lot and stuff like that. But when we did have to make a couple of important calls and get on the internet to change reservations or whatever, we got in the car, we drove into town, which was about 15-20 minutes, to Walmart parking lot, where you have a cell tower right there. We were able to connect. I did want to bring up another point here as we go along here. I wanted to make a note about our Wii Boost and cell service during this trip, okay? On many occasions, the Wii Boost that I installed, it really pulled through for us. I mean, there was many places where the signal was so weak. Boy, you kick on the Wii Boost and bang, 3 bars, internet, everything.
Absolutely. It was so well worth putting that in.
It was. Even when we were driving on the road, you'll be going through dips and valleys and hills, and you'll have cell service, you'll drop out. You'll have cell, you'll drop out. So we just leaved it on the whole time while we were underway.
We left it on.
Just left it on. And as we're getting somewhere, and I said, Joni, you know, can you check such and such? She'd get on her tablet, and if she had cell service, great. If not, we couldn't go there right now, and we would just rely on our GPS, which of course is from satellite. So anyway, we left that WeBoost on pretty much the whole time going up.
So, back on track.
Yep.
We leave Millwood Landing and we head to a Thousand Trails Park. It's called Cherokee Landing in Tennessee.
Cherokee Landing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Didn't Cher do a song about Cherokee Landing?
Yeah, Cherokee people.
Cherokee people. Okay, whatever. Once we got to the park, it was fine. I mean, and it was empty. They just opened the day before. And that's another thing that the more east and towards the coast and north we went, these parks don't even open till, you know, April, maybe even May. So this park just had opened. This park is very woodsy.
Very.
Very small roads, winding around, down into valleys, back up again. This park is mainly geared for small rigs, Class C's, pull behinds, but they do have an area and they do have some spots for Class A motorhomes. There was us there, and then the following day another one came. We came here initially for 3 days. Again, it's just a quick stop, rest up, and I also am very good about, I'm very particular about checking the coach on maintenance. Every leg that we get to somewhere, I get out my cardboard, I crawl underneath and look and make sure everything is okay. The days that we were there were nice, but then the weather started looking bad again on move day.
So once again, I'm on the phone changing reservations because, you know, you have to cancel one reservation to make another reservation, and that's a story within itself. But we decided to pull out of there a day early, and we left there and we headed to Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. We were really looking forward to this one. This move day, though, was a long leg of move. It was a long move day. We like to try to keep it about 210, 220 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. This one was a long one. I think it was like 325 or something.
Yeah, a little longer than I should have.
And we were on the Music Highway. They call it the Music Highway. And we encountered we're sitting there driving, you know, and you look in your mirror and you're like, uh-oh, here comes some flashing lights and a big wide load. We encountered these 3 times, these extremely wide loads where they're barreling along 65, 70. And I had to go all the way over across the rumble strip on the right-hand lane to let these guys go by.
And, you know, everybody has seen a wide load, and it's really not that wide. These were wide.
Extremely wide. And I don't know what they were. They were big black tanks of some kind. There wasn't really any other place to stay in between these 2 locations. So we did spend a night. Like I said, it was a little bit long. And that really wears on me. So we spent a night halfway to Kentucky, to the caverns where we were going, in a truck stop, and then we continued our trip the following morning.
Well, let me just say, you know, when Martin said there's really no other place to stay, when I make these reservations, we're members of Thousand Trails, and I like to stay within the Thousand Trails campgrounds because they're free to us to stay in.
Yeah.
You know, I have a hard time booking something that I know is going to cost us $30, $40, $50 for the night when we can simply just pull into a truck stop or whatever.
Or a rest stop or a I mean, it's just, you know, it's just to sleep. You know, you pull in, you eat, you go to bed.
Yeah, I'm really cheap, and this is just the way that I like to do it.
Yeah, and we both like to do it that way. So we arrived at Thousand Trails, Diamond Cameras Resort, the next day, and we stayed there for 2 weeks. And this campground, this is no joke, this campground is right at the gateway of the Mammoth Cave National Park. Beautiful, beautiful park.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. Everything from the roads in the national park to the visiting center, I mean, to all the exhibits. It was just beautiful. They displayed the history of how the cave came about and was
Yep.
found. And
Yeah, and then they have in the main part of the visiting center, they have all the different cave tours you can take. We chose to take the Mammoth Passage Cave Tour. We're like, this sounds like something we can do. So the cave starts down this staircase and disappears into the mountain, and it had several large rooms. And the rangers, you have a ranger in the front and a ranger at the back of the pack, and they kind of lead you in, and they tell you all what's happening there from spot to spot. The Mammoth Cave system is the world's largest known cave system, and it has many different levels, and geologists believe there's at least 600 more miles of undiscovered.
right, because what they've discovered right now is about 400 miles worth of caves.
Yeah.
And they believe that there's another 600 miles of caves
Yeah.
in there. It wasn't really expensive to do the tour.
No.
I would really suggest, if you're in that area, just take the time and stop in there, because it was really quite incredible.
It was. So after Diamond Caverns, we left there and now headed to Wilmington, Ohio.
Woo.
You ever been to Ohio before?
I had not.
Me either. We ended up staying in 1,000 Trails, Wilmington RV Resort, and it was a nice park.
Yeah, it was.
It was a really nice park. We had a really nice site, and of course, it's still early in the year, okay? I mean, we've just been finding that, every time we land somewhere, they either just opened last week, there's not very many people here, and the pollen is strong.
Yeah, I think maybe we started this trip a little early in the year.
We both said to each other as we kept this trek going, we kept looking at each other saying, we probably should have stayed in RGV about 3 more weeks.
Mm-hmm. This park is settled in an area that's surrounded by a beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely
It's country,
beautiful.
it's rural area. We're in Ohio. And you're out there, when they say rural America.
But this is certainly the epitome of rural America.
It is. It's very historical.
Very quaint.
They're little towns, little storefronts, shopping areas that you hardly even see anymore. Farmland everywhere. And probably the only place where you'll see the police and post office in the same building.
And we saw even another incredible police red building that was quite old.
Yeah. It was like, you'll never see something like this in downtown Chicago. It cracked me up.
Yeah, notice the sign at the top of the left window.
Yeah. So anyway, we just loved driving around this area, going back in time. Many times we conjured up memories of when we were kids. I know I did. I was driving around, I'd see all these old things. I'm like, I remember that, like the theater.
It's like, hey, Martin, do you remember when?
Yeah.
That happened on many instances.
It did. The finale of going to Ohio, Wilmington, Ohio, was when we went to the United States Air Force Museum. It was free to park. It was free to get in. It was huge and it was beautiful.
Very, very impressive, with all of the history of all the planes and the missions. And tell them about this.
Both of us were so impressed by the history of the planes and how they were preserved and on display, but they were documented everywhere you went.
Yes.
I mean, everything. Being a veteran and serving in Vietnam like I did, it really made me proud. And I so appreciate how our American flyboys supported us troops from the air. It just gave you such a sense of honor.
And pride.
And pride, yeah. The museum is divided into many sections. I don't remember how many there were, but each section represents a specific era.
Yeah.
Ranging from the Wright brothers all the way to space exploration and everything in between, including Little Boy and Fat Man from World War II. Incredible. I wonder if you could even name a bomb like that today without offending somebody. You know, anyway, I digressed. But so many displayed aircraft and displays that shows off the United States military might. This is a must-see.
Absolutely.
POI.
Absolutely.
If you're ever in this area, you've just got to go. I personally was so impressed and inspired that I boarded Air Force One, and I thought I'd just try my hand at being president for just a minute. What do you all think? Do I have a chance at being commander-in-chief?
Of course you do.
Oh, and they also had an Air Force chopper on display in the gift shop. Yeah, baby, this is some meat here.
So we left Wilmington, Ohio, and continued down the road to Pennsylvania. We arrived in Roaring Run Resort, that's kind of hard to say, in Champion, Pennsylvania.
It's right off Interstate 76, which is a tollway. And it's also the place where our car got whacked. Once we left this park, you can check out the video up there about that.
Roaring Run Resort is an RPI park, and again, it had just opened. Most of the water was shut off in the park because they were waiting for the frost to end. But there were a few sites that had water towards the back of the park. They assigned us one at the top of this steep hill.
And and when we were up there, this water supply that we had up there was not the best we have seen, for sure.
No.
But this is exactly why we set up our water filtering, softening system, because you never know what you're going to run into, what kind of water, what kind of spigot, what kind of supply. So you really have to have a really robust water filtering system. So that's why we did that.
And the whole time we were in this park, it rained and rained and rained some more. The electrical supply was a 30 amp, which is fine. We don't need AC at this point.
Yep.
But with all the rain in the forecast and having to use the dog bone to hook up the electric, we decided to wrap saran wrap around it to protect our connections.
Yeah, there's just too much water, and I didn't want to create a dangerous situation. Now, where they put us up, we were at the very back of the park, at the very top of the back of the park. We were probably like the last spot of the whole entire park.
I think so.
And this was a pretty steep hill to start with. But with it being gravel and then 3 days of rain, I was beginning to freak out a little bit of how we were going to get off this hill without like just pulling out and then the whole ass end of the coach just sliding out. And I mean, I was really getting worried.
Well, keep in mind, it was also muddy.
Yeah.
It was very muddy.
Very muddy. And so after 3 days of rain, I just was so concerned. I got in the car, I went down and spoke with the staff, told them about my concern. They said, no problem. They assigned a maintenance guy with a front end loader with a whole bucket full of gravel. And he plowed up that hill and put all that gravel in front of the coach and around all those muddy areas. And I just felt so relieved that he did that. And so the very next day, when it stopped raining, we got off that hill.
Yeah, we went down low into a lower portion of the park. There was no water, but we had our own water
Yeah.
supply, so that was not really an issue. But we just really seriously wanted off that hill.
Yeah.
I think, needless to say, Roaring Run Resort was probably our worst stay so far.
It was. Rain, getting off that hill, and this is where our car got whacked. Not a good time. We're going to be here in Maine until the end of September. So there's a lot of neat stuff coming while we're up here in Maine. We hope you come on along. So this ends part 1 of our 3-month, 2,400 mile trip to Maine. Click on over and watch part 2. Oh, and another reminder, if you liked this video, please hit the like button. That really helps us out, and subscribe if you haven't already. And the main thing is we see a lot of people, they'll watch our videos and then they'll never say anything. And we love reading what people have to say.
Absolutely.
Anyway, this is RVstreet.
Stick around.